Somewhere in Germany, a professional football goalkeeper successfully sued Electronic Arts over this exact video game and won. We'll get to him in a minute. Welcome back to the PlayStation Marathon, the series where I'm playing every single PS1 game ever released in alphabetical order, hunting for hidden gems and the strange stories hiding behind them. This is game number 8 and we are finally circling back to a title we accidentally skipped 4 episodes ago, 2002 FIFA World Cup, developed by EA Canada, and as it turns out, there's a lot more going on behind this game than the 20-year-old sports title has any right to have. I was originally supposed to cover this back around episode 4 before Too Extreme, but I managed to completely miss it. That missed timing stings a bit because the actual 2026 World Cup was happening around then, which would have been the ultimate tie-in. So instead of riding that wave, I'm playing a 24-year-old World Cup game during the off-season. But on this channel, every game gets its turn eventually. 2002 FIFA World Cup is a hyper-focused release. Unlike almost every other football game on the market, it does exactly one thing. You play international teams competing in one specific tournament. No club teams, no transfer markets, no career mode where you build the ultimate football team, just the World Cup played out on a PlayStation 1. Sports games aren't really my thing to begin with, so going in, my honest expectation was that I would lose a lot and understand very little. Let's see how accurate that prediction was. Boot up the game and you are greeted by the full EA Sports presentation, dynamic cameras, dramatic brass fanfares, and 2002's best attempt at cinematic hype. Curiously, behind the soundtrack is a constant background ambience of player shouts and screams that never really stops or explains itself. It's just always there in the mix. The main menu, and by extension the entire game, is aggressively minimal. You've got friendly, 2002 FIFA World Cup, options, and extras. That's the entire game across 4 buttons. For context, FIFA Football 2002, which EA released just 5 months prior, featured around 500 teams once you tallied up every national squad and licensed domestic league. This game has 32, strictly the nations that qualified plus a few extra national sides. Same publisher, same engine, same year, but one game is enormous and the other one is a single tournament bracket. At first glance, stripped down spin-offs felt like a cash grab, but this was actually the second entry of a deliberate sub-series EA established back with World Cup 98. Every 4 years they built a standalone tournament-focused title alongside the mainline FIFA entry as a distinct event release, and this became a tradition until 2014 when they released the final World Cup game, 2014 World Cup Brazil for the PS3 and Xbox 360. Digging into the options in this game, you find your standard settings, difficulty, half-length, stadium choices, and control mapping. Team management is tucked in here too if you want to swap lineups or kick takers, though I left those default. Oddly, load game is also hidden deep inside the options menu rather than sitting on the main screen, which threw me off for a moment. Before diving into the tournament proper, I set up a friendly match between Team USA and France to map out the controls, and everything immediately spiraled. My analog inputs weren't registering correctly on my emulator initially, forcing me to use the D-pad for my first match, which was a horrible experience. Once I finally resolved the analog stick configuration, I quickly discovered that having working controls doesn't automatically make you a skilled player at this game. This is because the control scheme is so context sensitive and counterintuitive that simply having an analog stick doesn't solve the difficulty of mastering the game's specific button flip mechanics. Here's how the button mapping handles. Triangle is your sprint button, that's easy enough. Square is your lob pass on offense, but on defense it instantly shifts into an aggressive side tackle. Circle shoots but doubles as soft tackle on defense, and cross passes, but it's also your button to manually switch to whichever player is closest to the ball. And that last one is where I fell apart completely. The second you win or lose possession, that same button's job flips instantly. I wasn't fast enough to register the swap, so I kept firing passes into empty grass because I thought I was still switching players. The short tackle overlap got me too. More than once I'd successfully stripped the ball from an opponent only to immediately launch it 5 million miles into the crowd because my thumb was still in shoot mode from half a second earlier. That's the core problem with this game's control. One button does several jobs and the game expects you to already know which job is currently active. If you don't, you make consistent confusing mistakes that don't feel like skill issues so much as the game quietly changing the rules on you mid-play. Okay, maybe it was a skill issue on my case, but anyway. When it came time to launch the actual tournament, I took control of Team USA since I figured playing as the 2026 host was fitting. I also played as Mexico, but USA got most of my attention. Was I good? No. Most of my matches ended in goalless draws and losses, which led to multiple group stage exits. I did win a few matches though, so it wasn't all that bad. The closest I got to anything resembling World Cup glory was reaching the knockout stage with Team USA, which brought me face to face with Mexico of all people in a high stakes elimination match that went all the way to a penalty shootout. And that brings us right back to our opening shot, me floating a decisive penalty trick directly over the crossbar to eliminate my own team, a very poetic end to my most successful run. Now, about that German lawsuit. Bayern Munich's legendary goalkeeper Oliver Kahn was fully featured in this game, complete with his official name, likeness, and attributes. Normally, player usage is handled through a master licensing agreement EA holds with FIFPro, the Global Professional Players Union, but EA made one tiny mistake. Oliver Kahn was not a member of FIFPro. Because he hadn't assigned his individual image rights to the union, Kahn sued EA in a German court for unauthorized commercial use of his likeness, and won. The court ruling placed a legal ban on selling 2002 FIFA World Cup across Germany under threat of heavy fines, forcing EA to pull copies off shelves and pay Kahn the grand sum of €3,000. This whole case either sounds silly or outrageous depending on how you look at it, but a multi-million-dollar FIFA game getting banned across a major football nation over a single player's face was easily the most dramatic twist in this game's history. That courtroom drama isn't the only weird detail surrounding this game. The review scores across platforms present a strange contradiction. The game was released simultaneously across 5 platforms: PS1, PS2, Xbox, GameCube, and PC. The PS1 version was clearly the hardware underdog, running on legacy tech with downscaled textures, simplified menus, and noticeably flatter player models compared to the PS2 edition. And yet, on Metacritic, the PS1 port holds a 77/100, while the next-gen PS2 version sits at 73/100. While aggregator metrics like game rankings tell a more traditional story, ranking the PS1 version at the bottom of the stack, the fact that any major review aggregator has the legacy console hardware outscoring its next-gen counterpart is the kind of contradiction that doesn't usually happen with sports games, where more power almost always means a better score. Visually, this game holds up reasonably well from a distance. Stadium layouts look vibrant and goal celebrations attempt some cinematic flair, but once the camera zooms in for close-up replays, character models quickly reveal their age. That's not unique to this game. Football games in general always seem to lag behind other titles when it comes to character models, at least from my perspective, and I genuinely don't understand why that's still true even with modern titles. Audio, however, is where the game legitimately excels. The original orchestral scores composed by Bob Buckley and performed by the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra gives the menus a genuinely majestic atmosphere, and adding Vangelis' anthem as a match entrance cue was a brilliant touch that grounds the broadcast presentation. So should you play 2002 FIFA World Cup today? No, not really. Mechanically and visually, almost every football title released since has surpassed it, including EA's own subsequent lineup. I wouldn't generally recommend an old sports title over a modern one anyway, and this game doesn't give me a reason to make an exception. What makes this title worth talking about today isn't the gameplay, it's the history packed around the edges. A star goalkeeper taking down EA in court, an older PS1 port unexpectedly outscoring its PS2 big brother, and a tournament-only release strategy that carved out its own unique niche in gaming history. 8 episodes into the marathon, and this might be the first time where the story surrounding the game completely overshadowed the time spent playing it. And that is 2002 FIFA World Cup. If you enjoyed this dive into PlayStation history, hitting like and subscribing helps keep this multi-year journey moving forward. Next up, we cross into the letter A with A-Train, a title with a completely different kind of curveball. There is no win condition, no final boss, no ending credits, just endless throwaway management until you either go bankrupt or turn off the game. Going straight from a tournament bracket into an infinite management sim feels like the exact kind of tonal whiplash this series was made for. If you are catching up, the video on screen is my 40 Wings review. That one turned out to be a much bigger surprise than I expected going in. Thank you so much for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next episode.